We've got a creepy stabby lollipop monster, a bitey werewolf, and a kid throwing up chocolatey blood. Has somebody been peeking at my Christmas list? It's Trick or Treat! Warning, this video contains spoilers for the whole goddamn movie. I hope you enjoy and have a happy Halloween. Released in 2007, which is a significant year because it is 3 years before 2010, which is notably 3 years after 2007. Yes, maths, plus symbols, and a percentage. Squared. Anyway, enough of that. Trick or Treat is director Michael Dougherty's Halloween anthology horror movie, and has proven quite popular over the years. Not as good as Babe Pig in the City though, is it? But hey, what is? This movie tells 5 stories all in and around the same town, which do cross over to an extent, and are all told out of order from one another, but it all makes sense at the end. Possibly, maybe, I don't know. Let's find out together. Either way, be nice, and you see those like and subscribe buttons? Press them, and hit the notification bell to stay updated about my latest and greatest. Please, seriously mate, I'm desperate, just do it please. Right, so I'm going to start with arguably the most important part of a Halloween movie. How Halloweeny is it? Very. The movie is steeped in Halloween imagery. All kinds of costumes, pumpkins, trick-or-treaters, and an obscene amount of sweeties. Yes, the tradition of consuming all kinds of tooth-rotting treats. Halloween must really be a dentist's wet dream. But yes, I love the visuals of this movie, and just how decoratively brilliant it is. Even before you get into any kind of story or horror, it's just fun to watch and soak in that Halloween vibe. I just said soak in the vibe. I feel incredibly douchey. Bad, Michael, bad. So yeah, the 5 stories. I will say each one is remarkably simple, which is okay. I think because they are 5 small stories in an anthology, it gets away with that, as opposed to one paper-thin story stretched out to a feature film runtime. They each have their own little quirks, sense of humour, with a healthy dose of horror. Also, they're not that long. The first one is under 5 minutes, which actually takes place at the end of the movie. Because artistic merit. Nah, I'm not gonna slag that off, because it does tie neatly in, like a cute little bow on a present. Or a shoe. There is a couple coming back from a Halloween party, and this woman, against the advice of her husband, puts out the candle in the jack-o'-lantern, which he warned her is a superstitious no-no.
Wait, not yet.
What?
You're supposed to keep it lit.
Run here. This night's over.
See, he really did warn her, and now you've seen the clip, you can't accuse me of making it up. Not sure why you would accuse me, but now you can't. I mean, you could make a fair argument that I'm wasting your time, but hey, you knew the rules when you clicked on this video. She is then jumped and murdered to death by a mysterious assailant. I love how the husband wakes up because of the screaming, but just assumes it was the porn that he fell asleep to. Is it common to sleep to porn? I usually just put it on when I'm paying taxes, but that's just because I always feel like I'm being shafted. Her body is then dragged away to a really good soundtrack. Sleepy porno husband guy then gets a reason to pay for therapy for the rest of his life when he finds his wife's body on display, like a Halloween decoration. That could pass for modern art. This represents the pushback of social norms and traditions, and the terrifying consequences of being who you are. You are one, and one is all that everyone is. Therefore we, as one, can make a difference. Yeah, pretentious I know, but I did say it was like modern art. That right there is literally the first of the stories, and there's no more to it. It is a short but good opening with a clear-cut message that you must respect Halloween traditions, otherwise some nasty shit is gonna happen to you. And that is basically the case throughout the movie. Now for the next one, which is probably my favourite because it's the funniest. This kid is vandalising jack-o'-lanterns and stealing sweeties. Or because this is an American movie, maybe I should say candy. No, I'm a stick to sweeties. Because a sweet has wheat in it, and wheat is good for you. What's candy got in it? Andy? I mean, that's just cannibalism. Unless you name a skunk Andy, I guess, but then you're eating skunk. Okay, yeah, moving on from what is inside foods based on their names, which is totally how it works, we must get back to Trick or Treat. Because apparently hearing someone talk about that movie is why you clicked on this video. Bunch of weirdos. Right, yes, what was happening? Sweets. That was it. The thievery of sweets. He chooses to steal these sweeties from, well, the wrong person. Spoiler alert, he is a serial killer.
That can't be good for your diabetes, Charlie. Don't waste a good lie on this. It's just candy.
That is such a dad line, but I love it. This is Stephen, played by Dylan Baker. He sits down next to him and has a bit of a chat, and talks to him about life, values, Halloween traditions. And then he kills him. With poison. Horrible, horrible poison. You know, I really like this scene. Because you don't quite know when the kill is coming. I mean, you know that the kid is gonna die, but you don't know when it's gonna happen. He teases the kill scene with the knife, and in general by sounding quite threatening. But no, ultimately it was the dreaded poison.
Wait, that's right. There's another tradition. Very important.
Always check your candy.
What I love is that up to this point he is intimidating and looks like he's planned it all out. Then it switches gears to being more comedic when we see him struggling to drag the body in and being disturbed by trick-or-treaters. Then just as quick it switches back to being serious and mysterious. First off by this kid looking him up and down. That kid is definitely thinking, that blood looks a bit too realistic. Stephen's reaction is definitely playing around with this kid's mind and his fears.
Happy Halloween.
Then the mystery kicks in when this kid with a sack on his head is given some treats. Stephen doesn't seem to know what to make of him. Like, his mind is telling him he's just a quiet kid, but he is getting a more chilling feeling from just seeing him. We know he is something because he's on the DVD cover for the movie, so I like that they don't tell us what he is and they just slowly build up this mysterious figure. Known as Sam, he keeps popping up throughout the various stories until the end of the movie. But anyway, back to Stephen's story. He goes to bury one of his off-screen victims in a rather humorous scene, where he is constantly interrupted by various things, such as his kid shouting to him from the upstairs window, his neighbour, played by Brian Cox, investigating the noise, and his victim just keeps waking up as he subtly tries to bash them to death and keep them quiet. He then heads back inside, where we see some story crossover weaviness. Don't think that's actually a word, you know. His grumpy old neighbour is banging on his window to get help because someone is attacking him.
Screw you.
The guy has such a delightful demeanour, I can't see why anyone would want to hurt him.
Happy Halloween!
Screw you!
Once Stephen is back inside, we have another scene where it keeps us on the edge, guessing what's about to happen. Up to this point, we think his murderous hobbies are kept private from his son, and the film plays around with this, making us think he is about to kill his son, especially given how much Stephen was muttering to himself after being interrupted. But no, he does not murder his son. The jack-o'-lantern that they carved together turns out to be the kid's head that died from poison.
Let's carve a scary face this time.
Scary face it is.
But don't forget to help me with the eyes. 'Cause I don't want to die. 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 '
Always nice to see a father teaching his son the trade. I will get into the other stories, but like I said, this one is easily my favourite. Mainly because of Dylan Baker, with his ability to switch between scary and funny at the snap of your fingers. Or maybe his victim's fingers.
Yeah. Go get it! Shit.
He does appear again, but that is pretty much his story. Just a serial killer doing his thing on Halloween night. Now, remember those kids that trick-or-treated on Mr. Serial Killer's door? Well, they were collecting jack-o'-lanterns for a ritual. A ritual involving a legend. There were 8 children, who were different and disturbed. Each day they were loaded onto a bus and sent to a school miles out of town. And one Halloween, their collective parents decided they were done with them and no longer wanted them. So they paid off the bus driver to chain them up and kill them all. Fun for the whole family, this film, isn't it? But one of the kids broke free, and before the driver could do anything, drove them all into a watery grave. All the kids died, but the driver was never found. Actually, can I have some mist around me for this bit? All the kids died, but the driver was never found. See how much better that was with the mist? And because the parents and the town gave zero feces about those kids, they left the bus and the bodies of those kids down there. Back to modern day though, they plan to leave 8 jack-o'-lanterns by the side of the lake as an offering for the lost souls. Remember when kids went to parties and just played games? They have to take a small lift down to the lake, but it can only hold so many, so 2 stay behind. And when they get down there, pranks are upon them. One of them is too scared to go on, so Rhonda, played by Sam Todd, leaves him in the lift. She is more or less the main character of this little story and finds what is left of the bus, as well as all of her friends with masks on, scaring her silly. This is such an eerie looking scene. I love the set design, the cinematography and the colour grading, they're all on point. I really can see why people like this movie. I mean, it's not a narrative goldmine or anything. It is very basic. But it really does look the part and makes for a fun Halloween flick. They admit the whole leaving the jack-o'-lanterns down there was all a prank to scare Rhonda and get ready to leave. Ah, you've put out the jack-o'-lantern early. Don't you remember that that's a superstitious no-no? The 8 actual ghosts of the dead kids come and attack them, and hell hath no fury like a Rhonda scorned. She has locked the lift and goes up by herself, leaving them all to die. I love how she even waves at them as she goes. She then bumps into Sam at the top, whilst we hear them all being killed to death down below. Nice little bedtime story that. While I didn't like it as much as the serial killer story, it did have some good Halloween costumes in it, a cool little ghost story, and definitely upped the horror. Now we have Red Riding Hood, but with a twist. She is a frickin' werewolf, but we don't know that yet, so shh. And I really like how this story tricks us straight away. We see her walking alone on her way to meet up with her friends. Then a guy dressed as a vampire attacks her.
My, what big eyes you have.
And we have seen him earlier in this movie killing a woman in between the serial killer and the ghost kid bus stories. But now he is attacking her, and we see her friends wondering where she is. Then a body in a red cloak falls from the tree. Surprise, it's the vampire guy. Not a bad little twist that, but it gets twistier. It's Stephen, the serial killer, and the werewolf eats him, while Sam sits there watching. I do really like the bait and switch, but other than that, I've gotta say, probably my least favourite story. It's got some cool visuals, the transformation scene was good, and it comes full circle with the serial killer getting his just desserts. But it lacked anything that really pulled you into this one. Although the twist was cool, and I do enjoy the way it flipped around the story of the Little Red Riding Hood. So it's not a bad story, just not as good as the others. And yeah, you could say that the intro story didn't have that much going on either, and you would be right, except for the fact that the guy fell asleep to porn, so that makes it a winner. Anyway, last but not least, the grouchy old man, who is scaring off trick-or-treaters with his dog wearing a really cool looking mask. But because it is a tradition to give out sweets, he is in for a bit of a punishment for not following those traditions. Even though you could totally argue it is trick or treat and the trick is scaring them off with his masked dog. I mean, it's really inventive. I would personally say it fits the tradition, but whatever. This is where it lines up with Mr. Serial Killer's earlier antics. He goes out to investigate the noise, and we see that interaction from grouchy old man's perspective. I do really enjoy the way the stories weave in and out of each other. Anthology films are a lot of fun when they do that. Grouchy guy then realises he is not home alone. Sam has come to play. This is pretty much a good old cat and mouse silent killer hunting down his prey story. Although the way Sam covers the stairs with horrible sharp stuff makes me think he's fighting Kevin McAllister. This is also the bit where he was banging on the window begging Mr. Serial Killer for help.
Screw you.
You know, all I can really say about this story is that Sam is a really good slasher villain, and I want to see more of him. Everything about this villain just looks so good. The overall design, the lollipop weapon, the pumpkin head under the sack, just looks great. I definitely want more, please. I think much like Art the Clown was created as a side character in the Ninth Circle, they should do the same thing for Sam. Put him in his own horror movie where he is the primary antagonist. This story ends when Sam goes to stab him, but hits a chocolate bar instead and eats it, which through sheer technicality alone means the grouchy old man gave out a treat at Halloween. So with the tradition being fulfilled, Sam leaves. After that, you bet he gives out sweets to trick-or-treaters. He hands them out and watches the town as we see our various stories wrap up. The child, left alone, with only his serial killer father's teachings to guide him. Oh, I'm sure he's going to grow up to be an upstanding member of society. We see Rhonda walk quietly along, as her laughing werewolf friends have a blast of a night. Then our opening scene comes along with the woman putting out the jack-o'-lantern, and Sam walking ominously towards them, and thus revealing who the mysterious killer was at the beginning. But there is one final twist of the knife left. The old grouch gets another knock on the door, and is met with the departed souls of the kids on the school bus. So it turns out he was the bus driver all along. What a bastard! And they have come to exact bloody vengeance.
Trick or treat.
That was Trick or Treat, a fun Halloween movie that at its core is beautifully simple, yet a lot of fun to watch. Certainly gets you in the mood for the spooky season and reminds you it's very important to follow those Halloween traditions. Good acting from a great cast and some really nice spooky visuals throughout the movie. Fun death scenes and some nice little twists. Definitely recommended. Overall, I will give it an 8 out of 10. It is a lot of fun to watch and knows what it wants to be. And at just under 80 minutes long, it doesn't overstay its welcome. You've been watching Good or Bad, and if you've enjoyed today's video, please hit those like and subscribe buttons, and I will wish you a happy Halloween. Bye.